Hi, my name is Adil El Fakir, and I'll be delivering today a lecture about forward rate agreements. If we start with some preliminaries, in a forward rate agreement, the buyer locks in a fixed payment called the strike rate and receives a floating rate from the seller, which is simply the spot rate existing at the expiry date. That spot rate can be, for example, the LIBOR. If we take now an example where the spot rate is actually less than the forward rate agreement strike. For example, if we have a company called ABC, which has bought a forward rate agreement 2 by 5 equal 10%. This means that the life of the contract from now is 5 months and commences in 2 months' time for a notional amount of £10 million. In 2 months' time, the spot rate turns out to be 8%. This means that in 5 months' time, ABC should pay 10%, which is the fixed rate, and receives the floating rate, which was 8%. A little bit of calculation here. We see that the plus float minus the fixed times the notional amount, which was the 10 million, times the yearly fraction, which in this case represents 5 months minus 2, that makes it 3 months, which is 90 days over 365. That gives an amount of minus 49,315. This negative amount means simply that ABC must compensate the bank for this amount. However, instead of waiting 3 months after the expiry of the contract, this amount can be discounted by 3 months, i.e. 90 days, and paid now. When we say now at this stage, we mean when the contract commences in 2 months. So that makes it minus 49,315 divided by 1 plus, and we discount by the spot rate at the date when the forward rate agreement starts applying. That gives us an amount of minus 48,361. Now that represents what the ABC must compensate the bank with at that moment, or after 2 months. Now, if we take it from another angle, instead of paying the bank now 48,361, it can borrow it at that moment, suppose it doesn't have it, at the prevailing rate of 8% and pay it later at 4,935. Okay. So in general, ABC is paying 49,315, which is after 5 months, plus the 10 million which it had borrowed after 2 months for a period of 3 months. So that makes it plus 10 million times 1 plus 10%. 10% is the fixed rate agreement rate times the 3 months, which is 90 over 365. Now this is equivalent to borrowing at a certain X% starting 2 months from now for 3 months, such that 10 million times 1, i.e. 10 million, plus X%, which is the equivalent rate of borrowing over that 3 months period. Now, doing a bit of simple calculation, that leads to X% equal to 12%. We should note in this case that X% is equal to the FRA rate, which was 10%, plus 2%. The 2% is coming from where? It's simply the FRA rate, which was 10%, minus the spot rate at that moment, that means after those two months. Now let's see the other case where the spot rate is greater than the FRA straight. Now, ABC company bought again an FRA for 2.5, and that means, well, at 10%. That means life of the contract from now is five months and commences in 2 months for a notional amount of 10 million. Again, in 2 months' time, the spot rate is 15%. So, based on the FRA agreement, ABC should pay the fixed amount, which is 10%, but receive the float, which is 15%. Doing a bit of calculation as before, that leads to 123,287. Now, let's notice that the amount is positive, which means that ABC is now compensated by the bank. Same like before, instead of waiting 3 months after the expiry of the contract in 2 months, this amount can be discounted by 3 months, i.e. 90 days, and received now. When we say now again, I mean after the 2 months where the FRA rates start to apply. So that gives an amount of 118,889 pounds that has to be compensated to ABC company by the bank. In the same jargon like before, we say that since ABC got the money now, I mean after 2 months, ABC can invest this money at 15% to get its equivalent after 3 months of 123,287 in 5 months. Based on its contract, it still must pay 10% on the 10 million that it has borrowed. So in general, ABC is paying 10 million times 1 plus 10% times 90 over 365, which is and then minus the amount that it received now, but that is actually made to its future value after 5 months, which is 123,287. So this is again equivalent to borrowing X% starting 2 months from now for 3 months, right? So that makes it 5% if we do a small calculation in there. And we should note simply that X% in this case is the FRA strike minus the 5%. Once again, from where we got the 5%, well, it's simple. It's again the FRA strike like before, the 10% minus the spot rate, which was 15%. That makes it 5%. I hope you liked the video about the FRA rate agreement, and see you next time on